a Bhakti yogi, right? And this is what he shares and this is how he lives. So this was my first experience a little bit more than 1 year ago, but I didn't really have chance to go deeper into it. So I see him, I see how he lives, but I never practice it, myself, and I wouldn't be able to explain, in my words, what it is. So now I saw my yoga teacher sharing about this lesson, about this lecture, and I thought that's a great opportunity to join and learn a little bit more.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. Maybe next, Aparna.
Hi. So I haven't had any prior experience with, such a practice, but I can say that my mom has taught me a lot. She uses prayer as a way of meditating, and simple steps like a daily gratitude journal or lighting a diya in the morning and evening, and just reading something that's either spiritual or devotional. I think these steps have really helped me become more calm and a little more composed than I was before. But I'm really looking forward to this, Sanjana, and I've seen you do great work. So nice to be here.
Thank you so much, Aparna. Payal?
So hi everyone. I am also fairly new to Bhakti Yoga. I was introduced to it I was introduced to Bhakti Lounge last year during the lockdown, where I joined a lot of their live sessions on Vedic wisdom. I joined the kirtans and I really started liking the vibe, and also the people that I was crossing paths with at Bhakti Lounge. So that sort of probed me to go deeper into Bhakti Yoga and understand more about it. I'm not very new to spirituality in general. My family is fairly spiritual, so yeah, not very new to it, but definitely new to Bhakti Yoga. So yeah, I'm excited for this session, and yeah.
Thank you. I'm not sure who slides is.
I think that's Yugala.
Ah, okay. Shraddha?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Yeah, even me, I'm not. I'm not really new to Bhakti culture. Like my family is also very spiritual, but yeah, I feel like the Bhakti culture, it's filled with positivity, and the lifestyle is really important and valuable. And yeah, I'd like to know more about it, and would want to push myself to actually indulge myself in these kind of practices more in my daily practices and all that. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this session.
Awesome. Shivani?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I've had a bit of a on again, off again association with ISKCON. So I do have some idea about about Bhakti Yoga, but my family doesn't follow this path. I'm the first one to do so. So I thought I should start off with a stronger base, and I'm glad to be here to learn more about Bhakti Yoga. So thank you.
Thank you. Bonolo?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I've had like quite an experience with Bhakti Yoga. So like as a final year student, we have UIS at like the institution. So like we've had programs, I've experienced kirtan, and I've also got a chance to like initiate some of like the programs. And so I'm from South Africa. So we've been having online programs on Instagram. So yeah, that's the bit that I got.
That's awesome. Sorry, where are you from, Bonolo?
I'm from South Africa.
Oh, nice. Okay,
Yes.
welcome. Malvika?
Morning, everyone. Well, I was introduced to Bhakti Lounge by Sanjana last year. I think it was last year or very late 2019, and that has got me hooked into it. Um, I'm very excited for today's class because I do want to make time for these spiritual activities, and with the lifestyle I have, I think this can only find me some peace and some calmness within me. And also, I would like to know more and get involved more with this sort of practice. So I'm very excited and I'm looking forward to the class.
Thanks, Malvika. Nada?
Hello, good morning. So I've been introduced to Bhakti like 3 or 4 years ago, but I wasn't so serious about learning about it. But the last year or a year and a half, I've been really digging deep into it and trying to learn as much as possible. I come from a background where people don't know about this at all. So I'm really excited to learn through this platform with you.
Thank you, Nada. Welcome. Poonam?
Hello, good morning, everyone. This is my first time here to Bhakti Lounge, so I'm very excited and looking forward for the class. Also, I'm a very spiritual person, so I'm into Krishna consciousness, so would like to know more of this, what this Bhakti Lounge is, Bhakti thing is all about. So yeah, very excited to know more about it.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Welcome to Bhakti Lounge. Thank you, Poonam.
Thank you. Thanks.
Lakshmi? Lakshmi, are you there?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Lakshmi here. I'm very much interested and very curious to know about Bhakti Launch. I've never been into all this. This is the first time. I'm a very spiritual person right from my childhood. And I would like to know more about this. I'm very curious and I want to know more about all this in Bhakti Launch, how it's going to go through. I'm looking forward about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lakshmi. Thank you, everyone, for introducing yourselves. I think this course is perfect for everyone who's present here. Welcome, Yugala. So I'm just going to do a quick intro of Yugala, and then maybe, Yugala, you can also introduce yourself. So Yugala is, her name is Yugala Priti Devi Dasi. She's a Vedic lifestyle coach and she consults in Bhakti, yoga, and Ayurveda. Actually met her at this amazing yoga school called Govardhan Eco Village, which is 2 hours from Mumbai. And at that time she was there to volunteer. So she had already completed her 200-hour certification in yoga. And I'm sure maybe a lot more than that, actually. She is originally from Lithuania and she spent many years serving at the Bhaktivedanta Manor, which is in the UK. It's a center where they practice Krishna consciousness. It's actually a very beautiful place. I haven't gotten a chance to go there yet, but hopefully someday with Yugala. She's currently in India and every time I speak to her, she says, I'm doing some course. So she's extremely knowledgeable and we are very fortunate to have her here. So thank you so much, Yugala, for taking time out to teach us all the basics of Bhakti Yoga. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Sanjana, for such a beautiful introduction, such a kind introduction. Let me know if the sound is okay, if I need to speak louder. It's okay. And then I'm trying to share the slides from the computer. So can you see the slides already or?
Yes, we can see the slides.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was moving them up and down. So a bit of technical issues in the beginning. Anyway, I'm very, very happy and grateful to be with you today. And so nice to see such sincere souls here with us who are already like into Bhakti and already practicing. And hopefully we can go deeper or have a more understanding. Why do we practice Bhakti? Like what's in it for us? So let's try to make the session a bit more interactive. So whenever we are discussing something, feel free to like contribute your thoughts and opinions and, you know, realizations, whatnot. The time we have is pretty short, so we'll go kind of briefly. And in today's session, we're discussing why practice Bhakti. So these awakening series that Sanjana, you know, suggested we do, you know, it's all about like how we practice our devotional life. Like, first of all, we need to figure out, we have to have this foundation, like what is Bhakti? What does it mean? And why would I want to practice it? Because like, you know, we have limited time, right? And time is so precious. It's like the most precious asset we have. Like Chanakya Pandit, you know, the great Pandit, he would say that you cannot buy even a moment back for like thousands of golden coins. Like, it's so precious. A moment gone by is gone forever. So like, you taking the time today to sit here with us and, you know, discuss the importance of Bhakti, that means that it's something that you prioritize. It's something that is important for your in your own life. So it's a really big thing nowadays. So you can applaud yourself for, you know, taking care of the most important aspect in your life. And then, so today is more like theory part, and then the next coming up sessions will be discussing more practical part of why do we chant, how do we chant, you know, how to make best out of the chanting of the mantra, and you know, more like meditation practice. And then the third session will be focusing on studying the Bhakti text, because we know that in Vedic tradition, the scriptures are so vast. It's like incredible. When you see like the shelves of books, you know, devotees have in their homes, it's like mind-blowing, you know, how will we ever get to read all of those? But there is some tips and tricks how we can make the most of our like scrutinizing study. And how do we actually retain the knowledge that we read? How do we get realizations from that knowledge? Because it's not enough to just, you know, read, it goes in one ear and out the other. We actually want to internalize the knowledge that we read and study. So that's the third session. And also, how do we associate with like-minded people? You know, practice of loving exchanges and all that. And then the final session, which will be at the end of April, we will be talking about different bhakti practices, such as, you know, how to set up your altar at home, which pictures to put on your altar, how to offer prayers, how to offer food so that your food becomes prasadam, mercy of God. So all these simple practical practices that make our bhakti life really like nourishing and inspiring. So without further ado, let's begin. Why do we practice bhakti? So for this question, we can ask ourselves really, why do we do anything in life? You can ask yourself, why do I, you know, get up every morning? Why do I go to job? Why do I have family? Why do I have so many duties and responsibilities in life? And really, like, if we dig deep, we will see that the driving force, the motivation behind whatever we do in life is because we want to be happy. That's the driving force. If you really investigate, you will find that, yes, I did this because I wanted to be happy, or I'm doing this because I want to feel fulfilled, satisfied in my life. So that is quite natural for us, right? And in Bhakti tradition, the scriptures explain that really, well, it gives like a powerful analogy of a musk deer. Perhaps you heard the story before that in the Himalayan foothills, there's this musk deer that is roaming around and, you know, in search of something. And he has something oozing out of his navel. He has this musk aroma, which is like enchanting fragrance, which is actually very, very expensive. They say it's more expensive than gold, this musk. So this deer, he doesn't realize that this musk is coming out from his own navel. And so in search of the source of this aroma, he's like roaming around the forest, up and down, here and there and everywhere, trying to locate the source of this like intoxicating, amazing scent of the musk. And so the sages explain that actually it's oftentimes us, the living entities in this material world, we're like always looking for something, like running after this pleasure, that pleasure, trying to satisfy ourselves, but not quite able to do that. Why is that? Because the thing is within us. The source of happiness is within us. So the model that is like prominent nowadays is something called the YOLO model. You only live once. So in this kind of conception, we're trying to enjoy our senses to the fullest. So we're trying to extract as much pleasure as we can from the sense objects. So like food, like good company, people around us, intoxication, whatnot. Maybe not for you, maybe not relevant for you right now because you're already like on the path of bhakti. But in general, we can see that that is kind of the way of life nowadays. They say like you only live once, so like just have a good life, enjoy to your fullest while you can, right? I remember when I was living in the ashram in London Temple, we used to go out on books to distribute, we used to go out on the streets, right, to distribute transcendental books of knowledge to people. So we would meet many random people during the day. And I would often get the same question, like people would ask me like, why are you even doing this? Like, why don't you just have fun, like enjoy life and, get a life, have a good life. Like, why are you struggling here all day, every day in the cold weather, in the rain, in the scorching heat? Like, why are you doing this? So they would tell me that, just enjoy life, have a good life. Because at that time I was like 19 years old, and, they would think like, oh, this girl is just so miserable every day trying to distribute some literature. So people, they can't understand that, there's different ways of life. Like, it's not just about this life, right? So the missing link is that we don't realize that we have this material body, but inherently we are a spirit soul. We're not this material body. So when you take this perspective, then you understand, like you see in this picture here, that we're a spirit soul, and the Bhagavad Gita explains that the soul resides in the region of the heart. So right here is the spirit soul, the part and parcel of God. It's like, and the symptom of the soul is consciousness, which is all pervading. And then we have all these coverings, which we think we are, because it's like so easy to become conditioned to think that I'm this body, I'm this mind, because every day we're having so many thoughts. We have, different conditions that we feel in the body, but actually we're not that. We are the spirit soul, which is located in the region of the heart. It's very, very tiny. They say the soul is the size of a 10,000 of a tip of a hair. Super, super tiny. You cannot see the soul with any kind of, what do you call it, microscope or anything like that. Oh, okay. Sorry. so then if we take that into consideration, that I am not this body, I'm the spirit soul, and then sense pleasure is not the ultimate. We probably all experience that no matter how much I'm trying to enjoy, like it's all fleeting pleasure. It may give me some sense satisfaction for the moment, but then again, like I need something else. I need something more. It's like never, like you never get that satiation from the sense pleasure, right? So then people come up with this another idea, which is called eudaimonia. It's an interesting word, but what it represents is the concept of that happiness comes from something higher, from virtues such as giving, from like values of life where you're selflessly doing something for others. So this model, it talks about like, in order to be happy, try to like be of service to others. And we see that many people actually, they are kind of happy with this kind of idea. They do some philanthropic activities, some selfless service, voluntary work, and that is nice. We're not like saying that it's useless. It's nice, but the thing is that we fail to take into consideration that this life is a continuation of the soul. So like, you may do something good for people in this life, but you don't know how they're gonna, like, they may be suffering again in the next life, because the Vedas explain the concept of the karma and reincarnation. So what goes around comes around, and the soul is always evolving, and there is different species, like you see in this picture here, right? So there's, you know, the soul is traveling from boyhood to youth to old age. And then again, this samsara is continuing. So what benefit is there, like when you give someone, when you try to serve other people in this life without taking into consideration that they are not the body, that they are the spirit soul? So that's why this eudaimonia model also has some flaws in there, because it doesn't consider that we're not the body. I mean, that we're not, yeah, we're not the body, we're the spirit soul. And this life is temporary. Whatever you do in this life, it gets destroyed at the end, right? From the material perspective. And then the real problems of our life, of the material life, we also forget to consider that we all have to experience birth, death, old age, and disease. Srila Prabhupada, the founder of ISKCON, he would often like say the same thing again, like, you know, why are you not solving the real problems of life? You may be solving so many other problems, like feeding the poor, like, you know, building hospitals, planting trees, whatnot. But what about the real problems of life that nobody wants them, but everyone is forced to face them? It's unavoidable. So to understand how to tackle the real problems of life, we have to kind of get the core principles of a spiritual tradition down. So the first kind of aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra says, Atato Brahma Jigyasa, which means understand that you are the spirit soul, you're Brahman, you're not this body. And we are part and parcel of God, like you see in this picture here. So imagine God being the fire, and we, the living entities, the jivas, were the sparks of that fire. So it's a famous example that is given in the Vedas. We're like sparks of that fire. So we are same in quality with God, in a sense that we are Satchitananda. We are also eternal. We're full of knowledge. We're full of bliss, Ananda, just like God. So now we look into the Bhakti model. So what is the Bhakti yoga model? So we discussed the, you know, the YOLO model, where you're like, you only live once, enjoy to the fullest. Doesn't really work that well. Then we discussed the eudaimonia model, where you're like doing good for others, but still it's in the material platform. So again, some flaws there. And now if we look at the Bhakti model, we see that there is like 3 aspects of the Bhakti model, which involves the devotee, or the jiva, us. Then the practice of devotional service, which is called Bhakti Yoga. And that Bhakti Yoga is aimed at the Supreme Lord, serving the Lord, devotional, loving service to the Supreme Lord. So that is the Bhakti model, which involves that our inherent propensity to serve, like we discussed in the eudaimonia model, that why do people find happiness or fulfillment or meaning in serving others, is because we are inherently have that nature of service. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is explained that Jivera Svarupa Hoy Krishnera Nityadas, that the spirit soul, us, by nature, we want to serve. But who do we serve? That's the question. So serving the Lord is known as devotional service, or Bhakti Yoga. So definition of Bhakti, it comes from the Sanskrit word bhaj, which means loving service, and yoga, connection. So there's many different types of yoga nowadays. I know Gedra is an amazing yoga teacher, and probably other girls here are also teaching yoga. So there's like Hatha yoga, Ashtanga yoga, Karma yoga, Jnana yoga, maybe more you can say. But really, Bhakti yoga involves all of these. Bhakti yoga involves all of these. And bhakti is aiming at the connection with the Lord. So yoga literally means connection. And we're connecting to God through devotional service, serving God with love. So I hope that's clear. Now let's look into why practice bhakti. Before we go further, is there any questions? Anything you need clarification on or? No? Okay. So we carry on. So why do we practice bhakti? Let's have a bit of a brainstorm. What comes to your mind? Like, what is your motivation? Why do you practice bhakti? Anyone?
To be able to go within and eliminate all those factors from the outside, yet understand that things are within.
Beautiful answer. Yes. Going within, it's all about internal work. Anyone else? Experience peace within. A similar point, yes. Payal is saying, for inner peace, to understand our purpose. Beautiful, yes. What is my mission in life? Why am I here? Nada is saying, coming back to who we really are. Beautiful. So reawakening that eternal propensity of who am I? That I am Krishna's servant. I'm here to serve him. I'm here to love God. Aishwarya is saying, to get in touch with my inner self. Who is my inner self? It's the spirit soul. So connecting, coming back to that deep understanding that I'm not this body. I'm connecting inside with my inner self, and through that with God as well. Beautiful answers. Thank you so much. So let's look what the scriptures say about that. So in the Bhagavatam, anyone would like to read? Gedra, come on.
Now you put me on the spot. Okay. Bhakti is our real dharma. The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that by which man can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord.
Thank you. So dharma, we hear this word a lot nowadays. What is your dharma? You know, dharma literally translates as, you know, inherent nature or propensity of the soul. So it is, this is a famous verse in the Bhagavatam. Beautiful, the book of Dharma. Can't see by whom mankind, Simon Haas. Beautiful. Very nice. So we see Gedra is already like tackling all these beautiful concepts. So Dharma really, Bhagavatam explains, is really meant to help us to attain to that loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. And actually it goes on like to even deeper point, which is quite strong. Later on, Bhagavatam says that Shrama eva hi kevalam. If, like, whatever you're doing in your life right now, if it's not aimed at that purpose of falling in love with God, if it's not directed to like serving God with love and devotion, Bhagavatam says, Shrama eva hi kevalam, it's useless waste of time. I'm sorry to break it here, but it's like, it's that strong. It's really that strong. But of course, we focus on progress, and perfection comes from that. Then another point, it is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8:28, that bhakti is sufficient in itself. Who would like to read? It's a long one.
Okay, I can read it.
Please.
Okay, bhakti is sufficient in itself. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode.
Thank you. So this is something to understand for us, that we're not losing on anything when we're practicing bhakti. It's like all inclusive. Everything is there in bhakti already. And it is also explained that since we're already on the path of bhakti, that means that in our previous lives, we already like practiced all kinds of sacrifices, yagyas, we've given all kinds of charities, performed all kinds of pious works that led us to come to this point of practicing bhakti. So we are that fortunate to be like now in touch with this most amazing process of bhakti yoga, which is all-inclusive. Then another verse in Bhagavad Gita, it says that bhakti frees one from samsara. So like we saw this picture previously, like how we're traveling from one body to another, even like we can degrade ourselves to the point where we go down to the animal species of life or even lower species of life. So like this is called samsara, the cycle of birth and death that we've been kind of stuck in for like since time immemorial. So bhakti is that powerful that it is able to free us from that cycle of samsara. Can you imagine? And Krishna says that he is the swift deliverer. So very quickly, he delivers us from that mrityu samsara vartmani. Who would like to read this one, please?
I'll try. Please. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pratha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death.
Thank you, Mallika. Beautiful. So it's like Krishna is giving us a promise that if you do this, if you practice bhakti yoga, focusing your mind, your consciousness on me, I will quickly deliver you from this cycle of birth and death. Like sometimes we may not realize how much suffering there is in the world. Like we may have a nice situation for ourselves where things are going smooth. And we may think like, what's wrong with this, mrityu samsara? What's wrong with taking birth again? I don't mind, I'm having a good time. But really, Krishna rubber stamps this material world in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, dukkha dosha nudarshanam, dukkhalayam ashashvatam, that it is full of misery. I don't want to sound too depressing, but it's good to put into perspective that, what are we dealing with in this material world? That it's not all that fun, unless you practice bhakti, of course. When you practice bhakti, then it's all wonderful. Then you experience bliss at every step. Moving on, bhakti brings peace. Krishna says that how can you experience any happiness in life unless you're peaceful? Somebody to read, please.
I'll do that. Bhakti brings peace. One who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace?
Powerful point. It's a famous verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Thank you for reading. So really, you can think of your own life when you were like stressed out about something or in anxiety, like how can you be happy? No chance. You will be like constantly thinking about the troublesome things that are going on in your life. So Krishna says that you cannot be happy unless you're peaceful. And how can you be peaceful? It's when you practice bhakti. Because then your mind becomes steady. Then you become vyavasayatmika buddhi. Then you see your intelligence becomes one-pointed. Vyavasayatmika buddhi. You're becoming fixed on your goal. That your goal in life is to please Krishna. Whatever you're doing in your life is to serve the Lord with all your heart. So then naturally brings peace and happiness. Next one, bhakti is joyfully performed. Another famous verse. Somebody to read, please.
I'll take this one. Bhakti is joyfully performed. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything.
Beautiful. So we all want to be joyful, right? We all want to be like, not like lamenting or desiring anything. It is actually explained in the Vedas that the function of the mind is to always like hanker for something that you want, to desire something. and to like lament over something in the past. So the mind is constantly doing these things, and it's like so exhausting, right? But when you're practicing bhakti, then you experience this this joy. It is said in the spiritual world, every word is like a song, every step is like a dance, every day is like a festival. So we all want to experience that joy. It's like innate to us. That's the nature of the soul. So bhakti is kevalananda kandam. Bhagavad Gita explains that it is joyfully performed. It is like, it's not like some strict rules and regulations. Of course, there are some of that, some part of that, but mainly it is the consciousness of the practitioner, the consciousness in which we do our daily activities, that we doing everything for the pleasure of the Lord. And thus, we perform it in a joyful mood. Then the next one is that bhakti credits are never lost. That's a good one, because in this world we are striving for so many things, but then at the end it's like all gone. You have to leave it all behind. Like yesterday, I had a phone call with my friend, and she is in Ireland, and they just bought a house with her husband. And she's been a devotee for like 10 years or so. And she was just telling me that, it's not worth it. It's like she was telling me that it's just so much headache, to like arrange your material situation, to like, build your house and, arrange everything nicely, get the furniture that it's matching, and all that headache that you have to take care of. It just takes your consciousness away of the most important thing, which is bhakti for her. So she was just sharing her realization that actually, like, she was telling me, like, why am I doing all this? Like, I should be satisfied with a simple, like, dwelling somewhere, like, a simple place to eat, to sleep, have a shower. Why do I need this opulent arrangement? So that was her realization, that she doesn't want to waste time for those like material things. But of course, we're not saying that in Bhakti tradition, we like renounce everything. We don't need any material things. No, it should be like balance. It should be balanced between material and spiritual, but it shouldn't take over the spiritual stuff. So it's about priority. What is most important for us, and understanding that the effort that we put into our bhakti practice, it's never lost. Say you invest 1% in this life. You're like, you started your bhakti practice, and then for some reason or other, you drop it for some time, or perhaps the rest of your life. But that 1% is never lost. Next birth, you take birth, and you're starting from that 1%. You're starting from 2%, right? So it carries on from where you left off. So that's a very kind of, it's a good benefit, because with all the other things, with material things especially, whatever we do in this life, it's lost. Like, we have to leave it all behind. So like Jesus also says in the Bible, I believe, that spiritual practice is that wealth which is not eaten by the moths. I don't know if I pronounce it properly. Like, those I guess those insects that eat the cloth, I believe. Anyway, you get the idea that it's something that is not rotten, something that is not destroyed. We haven't read the verse, so somebody to read the verse, please.
I'll take it. Bhakti credits are never lost. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear.
Nice, thank you. What is the most dangerous type of fear? What do you think?
Fear of death.
Yes, beautiful. Yes, fear of death. We're all afraid to die because we're so much engrossed in this conception that I'm this body, this is mine. But bhakti, because it eradicates completely that conception, it eradicates the conception that I'm the body. It really makes you realize who you are, what is your real nature, what is your relationship with God, that it just completely removes that fear of death. You become free from that. moving on, Bhakti gives material detachment. So like we may think that, oh, I need to like become more simple and detach from material sense enjoyment, material gratification. But it doesn't have to be mechanical process. Bhakti gives that automatically. So the analogy is given in Bhagavatam that just like we feed the body, we experience tushti, we experience pleasure, from which then we get nourishment to the body and mind. And then we experience kshut apaya, which is detachment from food. So like, you know, when you eat, you feel satisfied, you feel fulfilled, and you no longer want to eat, right, for some time. And so similarly, when we feed the soul, when we're taking care of our spiritual life, we experience happiness. And that is like a direct experience. We can really feel it. And from that kind of happiness, from that direct experience, we feel detachment from material enjoyment. We're no longer attracted. So just like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Param Drishtva Nivartate, that by gaining the higher taste, you naturally give up the lower. So we may try to like, oh, I need to give up smoking. I need to give up, you know, this or that, any bad habits that you may have that are not conducive for bhakti practice. But it doesn't have to be mechanical. Simply by engaging in the bhakti process, gradually, you will experience that I'm no longer interested in like, you know, going out with my materialistic friends. I'm no longer interested in like, I don't know, like listening to like pop music or whatever. Like it just naturally goes. It's so wonderful because bhakti experience is like so profound. Like you really feel it in your heart. It gives you that happiness. And yeah, why would you go for something lower when you have something higher? And then another point is that bhakti also attracts all the good qualities. That's another verse from Bhagavatam, that when you practice this essential quality of bhakti, which is devotion, all the wonderful qualities spring from that quality. So like tatashta lakshana, or secondary qualities, come from that devotion. So when we are engaged in bhakti practice, we will see that our character is becoming kind of polished. We're becoming a better person. I remember also like in my own practice, when I started practicing bhakti, in the beginning, my parents were like, oh, this is a sect, you know, this is not for us. We're Christian. Why are you doing this? So like they didn't appreciate it so much. But then as they saw that I'm becoming a better person, like I would help my mom more, or like I would do more household chores, you know, these kind of qualities would develop in me, then they would appreciate that actually this bhakti is doing something for you. It's actually good for you. Keep going. So like that. And when we see that we are making progress both in our spiritual and material spheres of life, then it really encourages us to keep going. And so we can check how we are doing in our progress of bhakti by looking at our character. Are we developing more fearlessness? Are we becoming more charitable? Are we becoming more self-controlled? Are we having more like capacity to undergo austerity? Are we becoming more simple? Are we free from anger? And all these things, you know, these are like indicators whether our bhakti creeper is growing strong. All right. And then the final point that I wanted to mention is that Krishna says that bhakti yoga is the highest. So why not perform it if Krishna himself, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he himself says that this is the best thing you could do. This is the best yoga of all the yogas. Like in the previous verse, he says that, you know, karma, jnana, dhyana yogas, they're all good, but the highest of all is bhakti. Somebody would like to read the verse, please?
I can take that. And of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. That is my opinion.
Thank you, Aparna. Beautiful verse. I love this verse so much. So Krishna himself is giving his own opinion, saying that it's the highest of all, and it It really brings the jiva, us, the soul, with the paramatma, with the super soul, with God. So yoga is that bond that, you know, brings us together with God in the loving service, through the loving service. So now let's look up at how does it work? How does the Bhakti Yoga practice work? So we got the basic knowledge down, right? We discussed that we're not the body, we're the soul. So that is something called sambandha, or the relationship. Sambandha. So the relationship of the soul with the super soul, the relationship of jiva with paramatma. So the reality is that we're not this body, we're part of God. And our happiness, true happiness, comes from serving God. So that is the hypothesis of the spiritual science, right? It's a scientific process, taking up the spiritual practice. So then when we understand this basic concept, then we move on to performing an experiment or the practice of bhakti yoga, which is engaging in devotional loving service to the Lord. And we will discuss in the future sessions, like, what are those practices? Like, how do we perform devotional service? How does it look like? So, and that abhideya, or the practice, leads us to prayojana. Prayojana means love of God, or prema, which is the result of all this. The result is that we realize our true nature as a servant of God, and the pure love of God reawakens in our hearts. It is said, like some of you mentioned, that, you know, the goal of Bhakti Yoga is to reawaken that nature. So it is understood in the scriptures that that love of God is dormant within us. It's already there. It just needs to be like reawakened through the proper practices, which comes through Bhakti Yoga. So that is it. It's very, very simple and beautiful. And we could go on for like hours and hours talking about the glories of Bhakti. Why is it so amazing? But this is just to give a brief introduction to our practical sessions, which is coming up next week on Friday, same time. So I'll pause here and see if you have any thoughts or reflections or questions.
Yes, Mataji, thank you so much for the wonderful session. I actually had a question regarding the first part of the presentation, which was the eudaimonia model that you discussed. You mentioned that if the Supreme Lord is the fire, we are all the sparks of his fire. And our truest nature is all happy and all blissful. So in that case, why is serving the sparks of his fire, which is people, considered to be any lesser than serving God himself?
Beautiful question. Yeah, I can totally relate with that. I would ask myself also, we can do good stuff, and it's good. Krishna appreciates it because it's all like Krishna's parts and parcels. All these jivas, all the souls, they are sparks of the fire. So it's a very good question. Thank you. Anyone would like to share a light on this question, or shall I just go? Sanjana, I think you have a good thought on this one.
I think that it is important to, of course, serve the parts and parcels of Krishna, which is us humans. So I think at least from my experience so far, it is actually very important to serve Krishna's devotees more than Krishna. I don't think, what I've learned is we can't serve directly to Krishna at this point, which is the initial stage of us learning Bhakti Yoga. So if you can satisfy Krishna's devotee, Krishna himself is satisfied. So indirectly, we are serving Krishna in that way.
Wonderful. But what about serving not necessarily Krishna's devotees, just like random people? Inherently they are, of course, we know, but you know what I mean?
Yes, I think it's equally important to be good to everyone. And maybe you never know, maybe they see you as an example that, no matter how badly I've treated this person has some sort of control of not reacting maybe, or still being kind in some ways. And then maybe they get inspired by you and they want to learn what you're learning. So yes, it's definitely important to be good to not only humans, but also every other living entity on this planet, which could be animals. And I think everyone has to be treated equally.
Yes, that's a good point. And sorry, I'm like putting you on the spot, but what about what about when we are, say we're not devotees and we're thinking, okay, the goal of life is just do good to others. So I don't know who is Krishna. I have no idea that I'm the soul. I think I'm the body. And, let me just do some charity work. I'll go feed the homeless. I'll go build a hospital. This is the goal of my life. So how do you respond to that?
I think that is something's better than nothing, right? I see it as that way. Like at least you're giving back to the society in some way, because you get everything. You get so much already, and we're very fortunate. We're to be on this call, to have good food, to have shelter. There are many people who don't even have that. So if there's even a little bit that we can give back in any way, that is, whether that's through service, which you said, to volunteering, and if you have some money that you'd like to give, to donate, or for charity, to feed the cows, or to give it to the homeless people or people who are suffering in this pandemic, I think yes, that's equally important.
Yes, beautiful. I love those points. So just to conclude this aspect is that, so it's all good, right? But the problem is that you do good to others, you gotta come back. You gotta come back and receive all that, good karma. So like say you build a hospital. So next life, you gotta come back and experience the benefits of that hospital that you built, So like the idea is that it binds you. No matter whether you do good karma, bad karma, it still keeps you in this material world. So that is not the ultimate benefit. It's benefit to other jivas to some extent, but it's not the ultimate. It's not the eternal benefit that will, liberate those souls. It will not like bring them closer to Krishna. So that's the idea with this eudaimonia model. That's the flaw with it, right? So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, Mataji, I think that clarifies it. And thank you, Sanjana Mataji, for raising your points.
Sorry,
Yes.
I have something to share, Yugala, with what you just said. I also read that sometimes when people are suffering, you don't always have to be there for them, because if you try to overhelp someone, you're not letting them grow. You're not letting them, because we're here because of some sort of karma that we've done, good or bad, from our previous lifetimes. But if someone's really suffering, sometimes you kind of have to let them learn by themselves. So they're not, I think we had this one talk, which was given by Radha Govinda and Kishori, that I heard on euthanasia, where, the topic was, if you do try to make that decision for someone else, you're cutting off, they, unfortunately, then they have to come back and suffer again in another lifetime. Is that related to what we just spoke about?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good one. Good one to think about. And also what I also think about is that, the analogy that is given often is watering the root of the tree. So when we are watering the root of the tree, which is like through bhakti process, through giving bhakti to others, then everything gets nourished. So like say we want to do something good for others, give them bhakti, give them, a transcendental book, give them japa beads, give them a lecture to listen to. And that will water the root of the tree. That will water, the root of like, why they're suffering, it will solve it from the root, because it will address the core principle, like that we're the spirit soul. So we need that nourishment to the soul. So I think it's important to remember that, especially for us as aspiring devotees, to actually give the best to people. Yeah. Anyone else has any thoughts on these points?
Yeah, I would like to add on the same thing as well. I mean, it is equally important to give charity and help other people, but then that's only helping the material part of it. So it'll only help for a certain period of time. But if we do spread knowledge about Bhakti culture, that is for the lifetime. The importance of this knowledge is for a longer period or eternal. So yeah, that's something I would like to add.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yes, similar to that idea that watering the roots or serving the roots of the tree, it's the whole, everything is there. And like we saw the verse again, that it is sufficient in itself. Everything is there, and you attain the supreme abode, the supreme eternal abode from practicing this bhakti yoga and giving bhakti to others. So ultimately, we should be aspiring to become these, like Prabhupada would say, ambassadors of goodwill, that we try to benefit others through the highest welfare work, which is bhakti yoga. So I guess we'll conclude here. The time is up. Any other final thoughts or something, Sanjana?
I think that was a really good class. I love that everyone was interactive also, because it can get pretty difficult on Zoom. We don't even know if people are listening, but this class was really good. Thank you so much, Yugala. I just want to say, I was making a few notes and I think what really stood out to me was, when you taste something higher, why would you go for anything lower? What you just said, that you mentioned, I think that's something I really would want to reflect on today. I've heard it before, but today, the entire time, right after I heard that, that's all I could think of. It's so true. When you really learn about bhakti yoga and the practices and the service that you get to do, you actually feel so good. You truly feel satisfied, and then it does become a little easier to let go of your old bad habits. So yeah, thank you so much. I think, the next class is on 16th April, so same time, 10:30 to 11:30 on Friday. We also have a few other things planned out for this month in Bhakti Lounge. So today at 3 o'clock on Instagram, we have Kirtan by Sham. And then next week we have another class. So I can share the schedule on the group in case anyone wants to join us for other things. But otherwise, we are with Yugala for the next 3 classes. And Yugala, is it okay if we keep the group interactive on WhatsApp? So we're really...
Oh, yes, please. I think it's nice, yes. If you have I don't know, there's so many WhatsApp groups already. So maybe it's kind of overwhelming to have another one where people keep posting stuff, but maybe something related to the topics.
Definitely.
I think is nice.
Yeah. If it's something about, maybe today's class, if anyone has had any, a realization, if you want to share that, that would be great. Thank you, Yugala. Thank you, everyone,
so much
for joining us. We'll see you next week. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Bye.
Hare Krishna. Bye-bye.